So they let Alice at the hospital? Rochelle? Alice is out at the hospital, right? You talked to him?
He's in a facility, like I don't want to say a nursing home, I don't know exactly what, basically like to recover
Oh,
in Long Beach, I believe.
in Long Beach? Because I went to the hospital to see him and they said he was dismissed.
He was transferred to another facility.
I went over there yesterday. How's he feeling? How's he doing? You talked to him? Is he
Still Alex.
is he healing though?
Yeah, but it's a process because
Right.
of all of the injuries.
He
It's
said
gonna
that
be a long time.
he said about 2 weeks in a wheelchair. Right?
Yeah.
1 minute.
Okay.
2 minutes till. We're on time.
We're on time?
Yep.
Oh, good. About time. We're on time.
We're usually on time lately.
Oh, thank you. Are we late?
We're ending kind of late.
We're ending late? Okay. What time I should be done?
You should close out by a quarter till.
All right. So y'all have to talk fast. Amazing. I should be talking? Oh, this your first time here? Yeah. Oh. You want to sit with us? Yeah, come right here.
Right here?
Yeah, right here. Good morning. Welcome to church. I'm Jesse Peterson. You can get involved by going to our chat line on the YouTube there, and Hake will give me your questions and comments. I do appreciate it. Good morning, y'all. Morning. How's everybody? Great. Amazing. So I always ask any questions or comments or anything. Nobody ever have any. I guess you guys just always come to be taught, not to bring, right? No. Any questions or comments?
Well, I have a comment.
Thank you. One saved person in the house.
So I was watching Hake's show. Shout out, Hake.
Shout out to him.
And there was this caller who called in, and this is pertaining to what you
I like
said.
your little style.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, you got your own little style. It's nicer.
Thank you. And it's surrounding your what you've shared with us about not taking sides. There was this caller who called in who was super adamant and staunch on his position about the young man who died on the subway that they
In New
had
York.
to, yeah. And what I realized as I was listening to the exchange between this caller and Hake is that when we take sides, we wind up looking ignorant.
Yeah.
By the true definition of the word. I was embarrassed for this caller because he was so adamant about his position. He was nowhere near, this
Right.
event that took place. And the people out there picketing, they have no idea what happened. They have no idea how they would have responded if they thought that their lives were being threatened, literally. So I just thought that was interesting. And I had a few moments like that throughout the week where the theme of taking sides was, kept coming up. So
It's amazing how the mind want you to take sides when it has nothing to do with you at all. You want there, even in a family, when the father and mother are arguing, the children should not take sides at all because it's the two parents arguing, not them. That's why most of the time, not all, the mother draw the child in. The mother make the child take side. And when the child does that, he or she turn against her father. Or if it happened to happen the other way around, he'll turn against the mother. Where if the child didn't take sides at all, then they will be free to deal with both of them accordingly. They may hate one another, but you wouldn't hate either, because you didn't take side. When you really think about it, it doesn't make sense to take side. If it's not you and that other person, why should you take side?
Yeah.
But the mind and the ego want you to take side.
Yeah, I even remember, I saw myself in this caller too, by the way.
Yeah, I used to do that
not even
too.
coming from a place of judgment. I
Yeah.
remember back to the Trump era, I caused so much division in my relationships because
Yep.
of my support of this man. And it was so, when I look back on that, when I reflect upon that, it's like, why? For what?
Yeah.
I didn't change their position. They didn't change my position. And I wound up, when I reflect back on it, I probably sounded exactly like that caller to these people.
Absolutely.
Just talking, just my mouth flapping with words coming out that don't mean anything.
Every
So,
ego want to believe that is right.
Yeah.
As though the two devils fight to prove that one is right. But it's best to live without taking sides. It's best that you stay free when you do that. That's amazing. I didn't hear that call, but that's interesting.
Yeah, I thought it was too.
Is it hard to live without taking sides? No. One thing about not taking sides, you're not going to want to protest anymore. You're not going to want to go to the rallies anymore, because somebody's wrong. They have a right to be wrong. And you don't have a right to judge them, because the judge is wrong as well. Amazing. Any other questions, comments? Yes, sir.
Just a comment, when it comes to these types of news stories, whatever they may be, that come out, I find for myself, I like to try to keep aware. We talk about that here, but whenever something comes across my eyes or, is put in front of me and I get an instant emotional feeling, high or low, that's a clear indication for me to just step back, put the thing down and be like, okay, why is that getting a rise out of me immediately within 5 seconds? That's probably intentional. I should probably stop and just wait. And so if anyone struggles with that stuff, that's what works for me. I don't know if it'll work for you, but I'm very aware when something comes across my feed on my phone or something and it's instantly trying to evoke some kind of high or low reaction from me. So.
Nice. Right here.
So I just want to say how grateful and thankful I am for coming here a little over a year ago, learning the truth, like the real truth, and now like watching it play out in my life, living it. So on Saturday, I got the text from Alex about him being in the hospital. And then a couple of hours later, I got a phone call from my dad's sister saying that he's in the hospital in ICU and he's in really, really, really bad condition. And so when I left church on Sunday, I went to the hospital. He's at Cedars-Sinai, and he's like totally out of it, like heavily sedated, like clinging on to life type of situation. Still, he's in that condition. And I'm like, I asked the nurse, I go, if I talk to him, will he be able to hear me? And she's like, well, we always encourage the friends and family to talk to him. So I started talking. Before I knew it, it was an hour and 20 minutes later. And I was like, just talking about everything. Like
You
there was
talked to
no
him
response.
for an hour straight up?
An hour and 20 minutes. I was like,
And
I
he's
went
in
to
the
church.
hospital already dying? And then he died right at the end of the
No,
conversation?
he's not dead. He's not dead yet. He ain't dead yet, but I was like,
hour? No,
yeah,
okay.
an hour and 20 minutes. And then he was just laying there the whole time. Like, I didn't get any response because he's heavily sedated. I just started talking about, I just came from church. James was reading from Colossians, like talking about everything, talking about love, talking about forgiveness, talking about everything that I've learned in my life over the last year. And at the end, I was going to sit there and do this silent prayer. And I was like, let me pull it up on the video, because somebody made an extended video of the silent prayer where you're guiding people through it, and then it just goes silent for like 10 minutes. And when I put on the silent prayer and you started talking about like relaxing and Satan and stuff like that, he started opening his eyes and moving up. And I'm like, oh my goodness, because he did that when I first got there, but the alarm went off and the nurse came in, and it kind of scared me for a minute when I put on the silent prayer, because he started doing it again, but the alarm didn't go off, but I was like, oh my goodness, they're gonna think I'm in here doing something to him to provoke it. I just thought it was so interesting. But, so after that, I went to work, and then Wednesday this week, my coworker was rushed to ICU, and she was in bad condition too. So this whole week, I've spent a lot of time in the hospital. A lot of people around me are freaking out, crying, in tears. My son is going through it because this is his dad in the hospital. And I'm just watching myself. I'm continuously staying in the present, staying in the moment, watching myself.
Nice.
And I don't have any emotions. I haven't cried. I'm watching everybody else cry. And even my son, which it's a shock to me. It's really amazing that I never would have thought, when you use the word amazing, that's so true, because I never would have thought that I would be able to live life like this, letting life happen, not trying to control it, not trying to do anything to be a part of it, not just, to be a part of it, because obviously you have life, but just letting life happen and watching yourself and watching how you're feeling.
Well, stay with it. It gets better.
Yeah, in the midst of it, I don't have any feelings because I don't have any thoughts, because I've been practicing, keeping your mind with your body, doing what's in front of you to do. And that's just, I just want to say it's amazing. I never, in my wildest dreams would imagine that I would be able to live like this.
Amazing.
And through all the chaos around me, I have peace.
Nice. Amazing. Let's see here. I want you to pull up Matthew 24:42. And the white guy going to pull up Luke
The white guy.
behind you, 17:20-21. And the black lady next to the white guy, Luke 17:20-21. And the black lady sitting next to the white guy, going to put up John chapter 5, verse 25. And the white lady in front of the black lady, going to put up Acts 14:13. And then the Mexican man.
Close, I'm not that.
You're not Mexican?
I'm glad you labeled me as that.
Well, what are you? You look like a Mexican.
No, Filipino, Italian.
Same thing.
I'm looking Mexican. What's
Yeah.
wrong with that?
Can you pull up Romans 8:19?
Yeah.
Okay. Amazing. So just hold on to it. So what now?
Can you repeat that, please? Acts 14.
Acts 14, verse 13.
Thank you.
And it's John 5:25.
John 5, verse 25.
Okay.
And Luke 17:20-21?
Yes. Anybody?
I turned off my phone, so waiting for it to.
Oh, okay. All right. But yours is Roman. Okay. Anybody thought about the biblical question this week? No other but two people. Amazing.
I know I have. I can't remember what it was now all of a sudden.
You can't remember what it was? What?
Oh, sorry.
What, Mama?
She said she didn't know what the question was.
I know, but don't tell her, Mama. Let her.
It's public. I didn't know.
I thought about it and then I forgot about it when I was looking at this thing, but now I thought about it.
Amazing. You thought about the biblical question, you say? And what was it?
Does your life make sense?
And what? What? No. This is your first time here, right?
Yes, it is.
All right. Does your life make sense, right? And what did you come up with? Does your life make sense?
The entire week,
Yes, or?
the entire week, I wanted to say yes, and then just yesterday, I started thinking no. So I'm actually still not sure.
You're not sure yet if your life makes sense or not? Oh, okay. Amazing.
But if I was going to say, I would say no.
If you're going to say, you're going to say no?
I'm leaning towards no, yeah.
And why are you leaning towards no?
Well, on Monday and Tuesday, as you know, I do the door-to-door.
Right.
So when I'm going from door to door, I'm thinking of this question in my head walking around the neighborhood. And at first I was like, yeah, of course it makes sense. Your mother turned you away against your father. You hated your father in your teen years. You heard Jesse. You forgave your mother. You forgave your father. You overcame your anger. The things that I thought would make sense to me. And then I kind of thought about it more and more, and I kept leaning towards yes. But yesterday, I had a frustrating day, or what I thought was a frustrating day. And I tried to make sense of it, and I couldn't. And at that moment, I was like, wait a minute, maybe my life doesn't make sense, because I can't really pinpoint exact things still, like why am I feeling this way? I know why, because it's the thoughts, but yeah, I still don't know.
You still don't know if it makes sense or not, for sure. All right. You said you thought of the question, right?
Yes.
Okay, does your life make sense?
Yes.
And what makes sense about your life?
I can tell you what makes sense about my life. I would tell you the way I approach the question, though, is I recognize that my life makes sense when I accept what it is, what it's made up of. When I start to think about that question a lot, and I get into more than just I was given this life, it was a gift from God, right? Then it starts to get shaky if I think about, oh, how does it make sense, or what does it make sense about? Because I start questioning a lot of things in my life. And I would say for myself, if I think too much about existing or identify too much with this life I'm living, it starts to make no sense real fast. It can get real dark and real bleak really fast. So for me, the way I interpreted the question was, my life makes sense. I was given this life, I didn't ask for it, it's a gift, and I'm just moving through it. So in that sense, that's how it makes sense.
So your life makes sense because you're moving through it. It was a gift from God, and you're moving through it.
My life only makes sense because I'm not questioning it, because I'm accepting that it was a gift, and as I move through it with what's in front of me and the things we talk about, it makes sense. If I go
Okay.
back a year from now, and I'm thinking about my life like I used to, I would just sit in the shower thinking about my life and thinking about existing or dying. I would get so freaked out, make me want to shout, for real.
So it makes sense. You say, yes, today your life makes sense because it's a gift from God, and what else?
And I don't really get into the mess of thinking about the why behind it. I look at how my life makes sense.
Okay.
And the last few weeks that I've been watching online, I'll say that I've been really, and I don't know how to express this, but I've been really going back and forth over a lot of the how of what we do here versus the why. And I'm realizing that while that question of why is so entertaining to us, it's not as useful as just the how of looking at what I have and being thankful for my life and that I'm alive. I mean, I'm alive in this crazy world. That makes sense.
Okay. All right. Right here. You had your hand, right?
I did.
Okay. And then the young lady in the back want to answer it. Okay. Does your life make sense?
My life makes perfect sense,
And
just
what-
not to me.
I'm sorry? What'd you say?
I said my life makes perfect sense, just not to me.
Oh, and what makes sense about your life? When you say just not to you, what do you mean?
I mean that it makes sense because God, especially now that I'm, present and getting out of my head, it makes even less sense to me, but it makes sense to God. He's leading. I feel like I'm on a maze, blindfolded, and God is just leading me. And I'm just in the present, and he's orchestrating every move that I make, and I think it's always been that way. But I believe that I'm more cognizant of it now. So
And that's the part that doesn't make sense?
nothing about my life makes sense.
Nothing at
to
all?
Me,
Oh,
to
okay.
me. But
Okay.
I believe that from a spiritual perspective, it makes perfect sense.
Okay. Thank you. Interesting question, all right?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Me?
No, you. Does your life make sense?
Sometimes.
And what makes sense about your life sometimes?
Well, first of all, that I'm here today, it makes sense.
Okay.
I haven't been here in a couple of weeks.
Oh, and that doesn't make sense.
No, that doesn't make sense. It does not make sense.
Okay. Did you have your hand, Raymond?
Yes.
Okay. Does your life make sense?
It does,
And what makes sense about your life?
because I realized why up until now, it did make sense. That made sense. I realized that I failed to check my ego at the door of our Father. In other words, I always put my ego first before anything else.
Okay. Amazing. Doug want to put it on that. And then here. Does your life make sense? And see, we're here to fellowship together because I want you guys to know that you know that you know that you know that you know. Not just because I said it. It'll just be the same thing you've been doing all your life. You're just taking somebody else's word without knowing for yourself. Yes, does your life make sense?
Since you asked this question, I think my very first answer was, yeah, it makes sense. But since then, I cannot make sense of it. So there's nothing about my life that makes sense to me.
Like, can you give me an example of what doesn't make sense?
Well, I don't really control anything. My life is not controlled by me. So, but yet it's happened, right? My life has happened. I am fat, sassy, and I don't really need for anything. And
Don't tell the people you're fat. They already see it.
I'm
The
just
folks on
saying.
camera don't know.
I'm just saying it seems to have worked out. I mean, like
What
I said,
seems to have worked out?
I don't need for anything. So my life is, in that sense, has worked out. But yet I didn't make any of it happen. So I don't know how to make sense of something I don't have any control over yet.
So your life has worked out as far as the stuff you have?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And
I mean, as far as not just the stuff I have, but it seems to have worked. I'm here. I ain't dead.
if you were dead, would that make sense?
Probably not to me at that point.
Oh, okay. Right here and then here. Does your life make sense?
Yes.
And what makes sense about your life?
For the most part, when I do, I get, and then when I don't do, I don't get.
Give me an example of what you mean.
If I actually do, just instead of thinking about something, just do it. Like let the doing be the thinking.
All right.
Stuff gets done. But if I'm thinking about doing, I'm not doing anything. I'm just intellectually wasting time. I find that, and then a lot of times I'm not being honest with myself about not doing. Like I get confused thinking that thinking is a form of doing, and then I'm not doing. But in reality, I'm not doing anything. So,
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Had you thought about if your life made sense before the biblical question?
No.
Oh, okay. Nice.
Yeah.
This young lady want to respond. Does your life make sense?
Now it does, yes.
It does. You said now it does? What didn't make sense before now?
Because I was living in my mind, so everything that I saw, it was just the interpretations of Satan. So, of course, Satan, he don't understand light, so I couldn't understand my life nor see my life. But now when I just become present and stay still, sometimes talk myself through certain things, resist the thoughts, it makes perfect sense to me.
Amazing. And this is your first time here, right?
Yes.
What's your first name?
Nathia.
What?
Nathia.
Nathia?
Nathia.
Oh, Nathia. I thought
Yeah.
you said Nathia.
Both.
Well, welcome.
Thank you.
How did you find us?
YouTube.
Any questions about anything?
No questions.
Good. You doing the silent prayer?
Yes.
You went and forgave?
Mm-hmm.
And how did that go when you went to your mother?
Well, I did it twice because I did one over the phone and one in person.
All right.
And instantly she just walked away. Then she came back and said, what are you talking about? I did this because I told my mom I forgave her for being a whore. I just basically copied what you said because it was true.
She was a whore?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And I told her that, and she couldn't believe it. She was like in denial, stuff like that. She said, I forgive you, stuff like that. And I just walked away because I saw Satan, so
Right.
I knew
Nice.
what to do, what not to do in that situation.
Nice. Amazing. How about your father?
My father, he reacted the same way like my mom a little bit, in that he said, I took care of you, I did this, blah, 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 but he was weak, and so that's why I was trying to explain, he wasn't there to stop it,
Right on. Amazing. There's nothing like forgiveness.
Yes.
Yeah.
Not even with other people, but also with yourself.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can't judge, period.
Right. So I can be like a alcoholic, so to say, but if I don't judge myself in that, eventually I will move away from that.
100%.
Yeah.
Because you're not judging yourself. It's not who you are anyway. It's just something you're doing to try to make yourself feel better because you've been turned away from the Father.
Right, and I feel free actually knowing that. Like I can be an alcoholic as long as I don't judge myself.
Yes.
I'm staying it.
Nice.
So-
It's interesting you can feel free from that, even though you may be still doing it. But when you thought it was you, it felt like enslavement. You felt
I had to
judged.
do it. It's crazy.
Right.
Yeah.
That's deep. That's deep. Amazing. Yes, Frankie. Does your life, what's the question?
Does your life make sense?
What?
Nothing this time.
I know. When I ask you, you don't say anything. Does your life make sense?
It doesn't make sense.
It does not, you say?
No.
And what doesn't make sense about it?
So things that I kind of desire or want, my plans, they don't go the way I think, don't go the way I plan. And only when I'm looking back, to me, does it look like, oh, okay, it's supposed to be that way. So it looks like it makes sense when I'm looking back in my life, looking at situations and things that happened with my parents.
When you look back, you say it makes sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. I can see, oh, okay.
But
that's why it
today,
happened.
now that you're awake, it doesn't make sense?
Well, the future doesn't make sense to me. Okay, I plan on doing this, and it goes backwards, or it's a bad idea, and it doesn't make sense. When I look back, I said, oh, okay, I needed to learn from that experience. I needed to learn the problems I was having. It made me stronger. So that was good for me. And so now it makes sense. But at the time, it was chaos. Stressful things in life, financial situations.
Is it possible to learn from experience?
If you're
from
blessed.
going through experiences?
If you're blessed, those people that are
is
wise.
Is it possible to learn through going through experience? We have things happen in your life. Is it possible to learn from that?
Yeah.
And how do you learn from that?
You mean in the moment?
No, how do you learn from that experience?
See that I burned my hand on the stove, and that's not good to burn my hand on the stove.
And so if you learn from it, why you put your hair back on the stove?
I guess I didn't learn that lesson good enough.
And then you put it on again.
Yeah.
And so how do you learn from experience if you keep repeating? So what?
Not overreacting.
Not overreacting. Yeah. Oh, okay. Amazing.
Some things you
That's
have
an
to
interesting
kind of go
question.
through.
I don't know anyone on earth who ever learned from what they experienced. It might be possible. I just don't know the one that's ever done that. But I hear that you should learn from what you experience, but no one seems to learn. It just repeats it over again.
And then there are some things that I've gone through, and then I've had the pain, and then that thing was taken out of me. It's taken away from me. So that was like, it wasn't me that took it away. God took that thing away from me. And
So in short, what makes sense in your life?
I said that when I look back at my experiences,
So your past makes sense.
some things make sense. Oh, okay, why did I have to suffer going to school? Why did I have to suffer my parents traumatizing me, right? I said, why? You know, and what it did to me, it made me worse.
Okay.
And so, yeah.
This young man with the glasses here. Yes, sir. Does your life make sense?
Yes.
And what makes sense about your life?
I think it makes sense because I'm at peace with it.
You have peace with it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Amazing.
And I can't do anything about it anyway.
That's right. Okay, the young lady want to respond. Does your life make sense?
When I first heard the question, I said yes, but now that I'm thinking more about it, I don't know.
You don't know?
No, I don't know.
Oh, okay. Amazing.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Does your life make sense?
I don't know.
You don't know if it makes sense or
No,
not?
because everything feels like it should be the way that it is. I don't really question it necessarily. Like the body just does, and whatever it is, it just is that way.
Okay.
I don't know.
So you don't know if it makes sense?
I don't know.
Okay. Sean want the last word on this, and then I have one more question. Does your life make sense?
Yes, it does. My first reaction when I first heard it was no, but then when I started thinking about it, I came to the conclusion that it does. And it seems to I can see clearly that it makes sense, especially in moments where it's not going my way. You know, when my life isn't going my way and my ends aren't being met, my desires and my plans aren't being met, and things are just coming at me and plans change, it seems to make sense even more in those moments for me. I can see it, you know, clearer in those moments for some reason, but yeah, it does.
So what makes sense about your life is what?
It makes sense that, you know, at times when it's not going my way and I feel like it doesn't make sense, it makes sense to me that that's what the case would be, that I would feel like it wouldn't make sense.
Okay.
But I know it does, even though I don't feel like that sometimes.
Oh, okay. Amazing. Yes, Anchor Baby. Does your life make sense?
Yeah, I think I'm on the intellectually kind of
Do you call
understanding this
Nate
one.
Anchor Baby?
No.
Oh.
Only when she's mad. Only when she's mad at me.
Only when she's mad. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, it makes sense. Like when I think about it, even things that you would think is hard to make sense of, like someone lying or betraying you, or maybe the way you act in certain situations yourself. I'm like, I see that in my life, and I almost see it from a bird's eye view. I'm like, yeah, like I could totally see the part I played, the part they played, the part. Like I can see it. I can almost see it all. It feels like that. So
okay.
It makes sense, but yet I'm on like there's the parts of my life that don't make sense. So
Amazing.
that's where I'm at.
Okay. You mentioned that train situation in New York where that black boy was killed or whatever. There's so much more information coming out about that story too. And these people have already taken side, they already protest, they already doing it, and they don't even know the whole story. They won't even wait. The mind won't let you wait and see. It's just crazy. How many of you heard the story that Jesus died and rose again? You heard about Jesus dying? Everybody heard it there. Oh, okay. I'll go here. Did Jesus die first or did he rise first?
He died first. No. Let me backtrack. He died first.
And then he rose?
And then he rose.
And why do you say that?
Because that's from what I've read in the Bible, and from what I believe as well.
And what does that mean to you that he died? You say he died first and then he rose, right?
Yes.
And what does that mean to you?
Well, wow. When you ask me that, I'm like not putting that into effect. I'm trying to answer from the heart here to see.
Absolutely.
I mean, I don't have probably the exact, like the real absolute like answers. My faith is just absolutely invested in it to know that he did die for my sins. Hopefully I can't answer your question. I don't really have an exact answer. He just I don't know what, I don't really have words for like what that means when he like rose. I guess just as opposed to other people that have other beliefs in people who are just men who just died, who are not alive, where Jesus is alive. He is
Before right now, did you think that you totally understood that?
It's probably not going to be in an instant, but it's something that I'm going to now start like.
I know, but beforehand, all your life you've been aware of that story. Jesus died and rose, right?
In the past, before I was saved, in that kind of comfortable sort of convenient way, like how I was taught in Sunday school, or I'm taught through most of my life, even when I lived a secular life prior to salvation.
You thought you understood it?
I'm sorry?
Before today, did you think you understood that whole, what happened there? That he died and rose? Did you think you understood what it meant? It's not a test. Relax.
No,
Yeah.
I understand.
We're fellowshipping, yeah.
No, I'd say no, I wouldn't understand that part. What I do understand is that he did die for our sins, him paying the fine, so we wouldn't have to do it. So we wouldn't, and that part, I don't understand really that specific part of like, him rising 3 days later.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Before today, did you know you did not understand that?
No, I did not.
Did you assume you did understand it?
I took it for granted.
Yeah, that's the point. We take things for granted.
Mm-hmm.
We hear something, we can even repeat it, taking for granted that we understand it, and we don't. But when we pause and we really think about it, like, I don't really know what that means. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. This your first time here?
Yes, it is.
What's your name, first name?
Eric.
Eric, welcome, man.
Thank you.
How did you hear about us?
So, I live in Marin County. I drove here. I left here 4 a.m. to get here.
Wow.
So, and to do other things as well while I'm in Los Angeles.
Well, I take back my wow then. I thought you just came for the meeting. No.
So I was watching channels like the Daily Wire and other things that are in that algorithm, like Devin Gibson, and Devin Gibson had put some videos showing you and promoting you and some clips, and I took interest in that.
Nice.
And it was just one of those things where I just began to gravitate more and just be a little more fulfilled where you were interviewing people that were coming on and having fellowship here, and it was just one of those situations where I had the time to do so, and I wanted to come out here and sit in person, just to be kind of immersed in the experience of it.
Well, welcome. Did you go and forgive your mother?
Yes, I did. However, there is, and my mom's probably watching this.
Hey, Mom. This is your son.
Yes, I did forgive my mother. However, as a person who just still, who instinctively just gets like attacked or like with angry thoughts and just random, even of stuff from the past, even though they're all forgiven, it's weird how it still just comes to me randomly. Like even if it's 20 years ago or 10 years ago or just something, but now I have the good graces to take even if I'm at the gym or I'm in public, I'll go into a corner and I will pray about it. I don't care if there's people around. I don't care. They're not judging me. I only worry about what God thinks. So I go in a corner and I say a prayer about taking away any of those thoughts. But to stay on track with your question, yes, I have forgiven her, and I'm always reminding myself that any time that I might feel sort of that random sense of feeling kind of instinctively angry from some random thought.
What did she say when you went and told her you're sorry for resenting her for screwing up your life?
I wouldn't say it was something that was vocally. It was something I did in my heart.
Oh, you didn't tell her?
No, I didn't have a sit down and an actual
what a
conversation.
beta.
So if that's how you meant it, then
you haven't forgiven your mother.
I have in my heart. I have.
Did God say do it in the heart, or did He say go and forgive?
Well, I've apologized to her.
Did God say do it in your heart or go and forgive her?
That I honestly don't know the answer to that.
He said, before you enter the kingdom, you must go and forgive. He didn't say do it in the heart.
Hmm.
Are you afraid to face her?
No, not.
So why have you gone to her then?
I just didn't know that was the way how it was supposed to be done.
That's why you're not free yet. You're still having these anger things come in and blah, blah, blah. Because you haven't gone to face the devil.
Mhm.
You got to go and look at her and tell her.
Okay.
Or do it on Skype or FaceTime. I don't know where she lives.
No, I see her in person. I have a very in-person relationship with her on a frequent basis.
We'll get ready. That's about to end. You got to go and face her, and you're going to shake in your boots, and it'll be the last time you ever have to shake again.
Mhm. I can move forward with that.
You can face her,
Yes, I can do that.
and just say, hey, I'm sorry for resenting you, for screwing up my life.
Yeah, here, let me turn to the camera right now and see.
You're safer way over here. Huh? And how about your father? Have you forgiven him?
Unfortunately, my father passed away, I'd say
Oh,
about a little over 15 years ago from Parkinson's. So never had that chance to.
Well, forgive him. You know how afraid you are to face your mother? He was afraid of her too.
Mhm.
And that's why he didn't protect you from her.
Mhm.
He had the same fear you have about facing her.
I've always felt that when I look back on my past, that I was the one who really needed to apologize. I mean, I know no one's perfect. I understand that, but I was the one who always needed the forgiveness.
Why?
Well, just looking back on my life, I was just a very bad person.
But you were acting just like your mother. She recreated you her image, and you were just acting her.
Perhaps.
You were, without a doubt. It wasn't you.
Mhm.
So don't ask her for forgiveness. You forgive her.
Mhm. I can do that.
Are you doing the silent prayer?
No, I'm not.
Well, then suffer.
No.
No wonder you're in the corner praying at the gym.
I am doing my prayers, like the
But
prayer.
God doesn't hear those prayers.
Mhm.
You're praying to the devil.
Can I ask you, when you say like silent prayer, like what is that like specifically, as opposed to like doing my daily prayers and
Silent prayer means you're sitting still and you're just observing.
Okay.
You're letting go and you're watching. You're not in control of anything. God will take care of it all.
Okay.
Because it's a spiritual battle and there's nothing you can do. And so when you're doing this other kind of prayer in the corner there,
Yeah.
you're just praying to the devil. That's why they're not being answered.
Mhm.
So Nick or Doug, somebody, they'll give you the little silent prayer.
Okay.
And you can pull it up on the YouTube channel
That'd
there.
be great.
And,
Thank you.
and give it a try.
Mhm.
All right?
Certainly.
But you got to face your mother so that God can take her identity away from you.
Okay.
And it's not her identity, but it's the devil that's in her.
Mhm.
All right?
Mhm.
Okay.
Definitely.
Any other questions about that?
No, I don't have any right now. No.
Okay.
No.
So we were talking about Jesus dying on the cross, right? Oh, okay. You heard the story of Jesus dying on the cross?
Yes.
And what did you hear?
I heard that he was flogged, and then the earth opened up, and he died, and someone took his body to a tomb.
And so did he rise first or he died first?
I don't think it doesn't make sense to me right now, but you may be able to clarify this, that he rose first. So I believe,
You say he did rise first?
no, I'm saying it, maybe you have more insight that you're going to clarify later. It doesn't make sense to me that he would have risen first,
And why doesn't that make sense?
because he was born through Mary, and he was walking on the earth until he was 30 something, right?
Right.
And then he died. Apparently 3 days later, the tomb was empty, right? And he was gone. So I'm assuming that was the point where he rose.
Oh, okay.
But
All right.
I'm
Are
open
you
to-
doubting that now, right now?
Oh, I doubt everything.
Oh,
now.
so you're doubting that that might be true?
Yeah, I don't know anything.
Right here. You heard the story before, right?
Yes, I have.
And so you heard he died and then he rose?
That's what I heard.
And what does that mean to you when you heard that story? Did he die first or did he rise first?
I think
Or did he rise first and then he died? Which one happened?
I think he died and then he rose.
And what do you mean by that?
Well, kind of in conjunction with what you were just having a conversation about, I think most of my life I heard it, I accepted it, I did the holy hands, and it was just a belief. And then one of the first times I was here, you kind of went into this a little bit about his ego dying for his spirit to rise. And that was the first time I'd ever heard anything like that as it pertains to Jesus. So, you know, like our ego has to die for us to be born again. I would assume that that would be very similar for Christ.
Okay. I can feel everybody thinking now. What is he about to say?
Yeah, well, I don't know. I mean, but Danielle just said, I have no
I want you to watch those thoughts. What is he about to say? Did Jesus die? What the?
But I mean, if it's written that he rose, I mean, risen from what if he didn't
Right.
die? I mean, there's some words there that are kind of 1 + 1 = 2.
Oh, okay.
But I don't know. Is 1 and 1 = 2 anymore? I don't know.
The young man over there want to respond. Is this your first time here?
Yes.
Oh, it's your first time. What's your name?
Aaron.
I'm sorry?
Aaron.
Alan?
Aaron.
Aaron, okay. How did you find us?
One of my friends somewhat follows you in.
Are you nervous right now?
I wouldn't be the most or biggest public speaker.
I'm sorry?
Wouldn't be the biggest public speaker.
Speak into the mic.
I wouldn't be the most confident public speaker.
And how do you know?
Well, because I generally don't speak in public.
But how do you know before it happened that you wouldn't be that?
Yeah, because I suppose I've done it before.
Oh. Any questions about anything?
No, I follow most of it. So.
Did you hear that Jesus died and rose again?
That'd be my interpretation of it, yeah.
And where you from?
Ireland.
Where?
Ireland.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice. And what did you hear happened about that story?
He got crucified, got brought to a tomb, and 3 days later was resurrected.
Okay. And you believe, and you heard he died and then he rose?
Yeah.
Or did he rise and then he died?
It said died and then rose.
Okay. And that means what to you?
Don't know, I've never fully thought into it.
You never thought about it?
No, never. I just accept it.
Oh, okay. Just accepted it, huh?
Well, it's easier not to think about most things. Makes everything simpler.
That's right. Amazing. Hake want to respond. And then I come to you. And Hake, a little homegrown Bible thumper. So, Hake, you heard the story that Jesus died and rose?
Yeah.
And then he died and rose again, or was it the other way around?
I mean, I always understood it that he died and then rose again.
And are you doubting that now?
just because of the fact that you're asking the question. Well, it's not that I doubt that, but maybe in another sense he rose. I remember he said that the Son of Man must be lifted up, and they said that in part that meant, at least, that meant that he was lifted up on the cross.
What?
That he was literally lifted up on the cross. He said the Son of Man must be lifted up first, meaning he must be lifted up on the cross.
Oh, okay.
So maybe he rose and then died and then rose.
What's making you second guess it now?
I mean,
Had you ever thought about this before?
it's not that I'm second guessing it. It's just that I'm second guessing the other meanings that I may have missed.
Have you ever thought about that
No.
whole thing before?
Only where the Bible says that he said the Son of Man must be lifted up. That sounds like it has more meaning than merely just being put up on the cross.
Right.
That's the only thing that I had questioned.
Oh, okay.
But no, I hadn't really asked inwardly about this.
Oh, okay. And why not?
I hadn't thought. Maybe. Well, I don't tend to think on spiritual things like you have want us to be doing.
And why not? It's not my one. God said take on these things.
Right. I know He said that.
Right.
Oh, man.
What a mess.
Next person. No.
Oh, God.
But yeah, it's like I get caught up in like the normal day-to-day shallow stuff.
That mean more to you?
Yeah, in the sense that I just don't pause. I guess I don't pause long enough for that other, like maybe the more real or deeper stuff to catch up with me.
Oh, okay. And so the outer shallow stuff mean more to you?
That sounds mean for me to say yes to. But yeah.
Okay. Yes, Raymond, then we're coming over here. You heard that story before, that Jesus died and rose?
I have.
And what does it mean to you? Did he die first or did he rise first?
He had to die first in order to rise.
And why is that?
It's the only way he can save us from our sins. We can't do that for ourselves. So
okay.
since we're conceived in sin.
And what does all that mean? Has that helped you knowing that?
Yes, it does.
How does it help you?
It helped me because it gave me a true connection, the true way toward Jesus Christ.
And so have you found that way?
Yes, I have.
Oh, okay. Amazing. You had your hand in here. So you heard the story of Jesus dying and rising again?
Yeah, I heard it before.
And what does that, which came first, the death or the rising?
I'm gonna go, I'm coming from a different angle. I think he rose first, then he was crucified, then he rose again. And the reason I say that is when I was a kid and they were taking me to Catholic church all the time, they always said the same thing in Catholic church. On the third day, he rose again in fulfillment of the scriptures. I had to say that probably 1,000 times growing up.
So you said that you said you think what now? He died
I think he
first?
rose first, like he rise first.
And
right?
how did he rise first?
Okay, so the reason I say he rises first is because, again, I will say I repeated that line all the time in Catholic school.
So they taught you in Catholic school that he rose
When
first?
we're in Mass, in Catholic Mass, there's a whole section when they're talking about the crucifixion where they say, he suffered, died, and was buried. On the third day, he rose
So
again.
let me just ask,
And I'm going to tell you why.
Did they say in Catholic they taught you he rose first?
Well, I would say that line over, so they taught me to say that line, but I know why I think he
that line
rose
doesn't
first.
say that. I'm asking you, just for information only.
Totally.
Did the Catholic Church teach you that Jesus rose first?
I can't remember that young. I just remember saying that line, but I know why I think he rose first, and this is what it is.
Why do you think he rose first?
I mean, he had to, in the way I understand the crucifixion, right, the sacrifice that, and all the things that come with it, right, the salvation and all that, we know that part. I think he had to rise to prominence as man, or in the form of man, in order to then be willing to lose all of that, right? He was to many, he was a rock star, you know, he was a king.
Oh, so the first thing you said, that he rose to prominence.
He had to rise within the ego. He had to become known to all the people. He had to become that rock star kind of famous person in the era. And then
that's what it means to you, that he rose first.
Yes, that's the first rise.
And then you say he died?
And then he had to fulfill his father's plan to give all that up on the cross and die. And there's even the moment of contemplation, I don't know the actual word in the Bible, but when he's like, Father, do I have to really go through with this? And God's kind of like, hey, You knew the deal from the start. You got to go through all this. You're going to be the Son of Man, and then you're going to lose it all to fulfill the prophecy so that other people will have a path back to me.
So number one, he rose in prominence.
Yes.
And then number two, you say he died on the cross.
Yeah, he had to give all that up.
And then how did he rise again?
Well, then he he conquered death in hell, and he rose to the right hand of the Father. So that's like the prophecy, right? And what we read in the Bible, that he rose, he went into the tomb, and he went into hell,
so
and
you're saying he
conquered
died
death.
twice. Right?
I'm saying that he died an ego death when he had to let go of his worldly fame. Because
just to be clear, you're saying he died twice.
Yes.
When he had the prominence style.
Correct.
Then he died on the cross, and then he rose.
He died of the ego, and then he died of the physical body, and then he conquered death physically because he had no ego in it, and that was part of the prophecy that gave us the path back. And
okay, so then I gotta read these scriptures. So you're saying he died once, and then he rose, and then he died again.
He was born and he rose to prominence.
I've never heard that before.
He was born, he rose to prominence. He had to give it all up when he died on the cross to give us the path back.
Okay, yes, right here, real fast. And then I want y'all to get your little scriptures together. We got to read them. So you heard this story before? And I know you went to Catholics too.
I did. No,
so did the Catholic teach you he died twice?
No, I wasn't there on that day. No.
Oh, that's because I don't know. I don't know what the Catholic teach. I learned a lot about him. So
he died once. He died once.
And so did he die first or did he rise first?
He died and then he rose.
And then what does that mean? He died.
It means that he gave his life. He sacrificed his life. He went through the torture, the passion of the Christ, and he was tortured.
You're talking about a movie, man. What the?
I watched the movie, and I mean, you got to see it.
I know.
And so I was raised that way.
So you're saying that he died first,
yes,
and then he rose.
Yes.
And what does it mean he rose?
It means that
to you?
That he became alive again, like me, flesh and blood. You know, he became alive.
After he died,
yes.
He became like you?
No. He became alive. You know, he got his life back. It was up until then you died and you went somewhere, and I don't know where, but you know, I believe.
But before today, did you think you knew where he went?
I don't know where he went. To heaven. He went to
You're
heaven.
not sure though?
Yeah, well, I wasn't there, but he died.
Have you ever second guessed this before, if he went to heaven or not?
He died, then he went to hell, and because the hell couldn't hold him there.
And then he rose and went where?
After 3 days, he rose to the right hand of the Father.
Okay, so he did go to heaven?
Yeah.
You sure?
He's seated at the right hand of the Father in heaven.
This is an interesting question. I didn't know it was going to bring all this.
I mean, I've not seen that. Haven't been there.
But before today, you thought you knew it, all right?
I know that. I was raised thinking that.
So. No, I said before today, you thought you understood the whole death and rise of Christ thing, right?
I do understand it.
But now you're not sure if he went to heaven.
I am sure he went to heaven.
Oh.
Positive.
Give me a drink. I thought you said he went somewhere, but you're just not sure.
He went to be seated at the right hand of the Father.
Okay. Amazing. So let's do this. Oh, you want to respond to that?
Sure.
Okay. So you heard this story before?
Yes.
You heard that Christ died.
Yes.
And then he rose. Mm-hmm. Which came first, the resurrection or the death?
I'll answer your question. I just remember you telling us once on the show that there's 2 times in life that you die. Once is of the ego, and then your physical death.
Right.
And so based off that, and based off of what I believe that he rose first.
You believe he rose first?
Yeah.
Before he died?
The physical death, correct.
What's a physical death?
The physical death.
Oh, the physical death?
Yes.
So you believe he rose before he did the physical death?
Correct.
And why do you believe that?
It's probably the Bible-thumping intellectual side of me, but you know, just as this gentleman in the black hat over here said, Jesus could have said, no, Roman government, I'm not the Son of God, and he didn't have to die. He knew this was something that he had to do.
I know, but he did. So you believe he rose first before he died?
Right.
And why do you believe that?
Because of what we talked about, how there's the ego death first. Especially when he spent 40 days and 40 nights.
So
by
he
himself.
died of the ego first?
Yes.
That meant, so he died first?
Oh, well, I guess.
No, I'm asking.
I guess, the ego death, but we're talking about the physical death, right? We're all talking about the body in the tomb, rolling away the tomb, then his spirit rises to heaven, right? And I guess I'm going a little bit more deeper, like I said, Bible thumping.
Okay.
But I remember you once saying there's 2 times in life to die, once of your ego and then once of the physical body. And if the
Okay.
first one's the ego, then I would say that that's the rising.
All right. Amazing. Yes, sir. One more, then I got to read the scriptures. Isn't it interesting that we have this long discussion about it? Whereas before you just thought you knew already, and now you're second guessing it. What a mess. So you had your hand, right?
Yeah, yes, sir.
Okay, so you heard the story before?
Yes, and from what I've heard and read, he was murdered by the Romans, because the Jews made the Romans murder him. So he was tortured, and he knew he was going to do that because he was sacrificing himself for us. What happened was he took the sin of all man and was judged, and then when he did that, because he never sinned, he felt the absence of his father, and that's what made him cry out. And he died spiritually, and that's what killed him. That was the reason of death for his physical death. So he died first, and then he rose.
So he died the physical death first?
He died. I feel like he died spiritually first.
And why do you feel that he died spiritually first?
He lost. He didn't have a connection with his father after he took on the sin, and then he rose. He rose 3 days later, and then he was brought up to heaven to be seated at the right hand of his father.
Has it helped you in life to believe that?
Yes.
In what way?
That we're not born into a cursed generation to where we have no chance of getting to heaven or getting to the Father, because being a Gentile, that's how it was for us until he did that for us.
How long have you known that?
I thought I knew it my whole life since I was a kid, but I didn't really grasp it, and I still don't fully grasp it. I don't think any human will ever grasp that spiritual side of us because we can't see it right now. But
And so, are you still living a cursed life?
no,
You're not cursed anymore?
no. I've been born again.
Okay.
So
Amazing.
I'm spiritually awakened, and I'm at perfect peace.
All right. So let's do this. Who was reading Matthew 24:42? You. Okay.
Watch therefore, ye know not what hour your Lord doth come.
Repeat that, I'm sorry.
Watch therefore, ye know not what hour your Lord doth come.
Okay. And who was reading Luke 17:20-21? Okay.
Sorry, the one day I didn't bring my Bible. Okay. And when he was demanded of the Pharisees when the kingdom of God should come, he answered them and said, "The kingdom of God cometh not with observation, neither shall they, lo here or lo there, for behold, the kingdom of God is within you."
Okay. John 5:25.
Okay, so the heading says 2 resurrections, so that's super interesting. But anyway, it says, "Truly, truly, I say to you, a time is coming, and even now has arrived, when the dead will hear the voice of the Son of God, and those who hear will live."
Okay. And repeat that again. That's so good. Repeat that again.
"Truly, truly, I say to you, A time is coming, and even now has arrived, when the dead will hear the voice of the Son of God, and those who hear will live.
Okay. Amazing. Acts 14:13.
The priest of Zeus, whose temple was just outside the city, brought bulls and wreaths to the city gates because he and the crowd wanted to offer sacrifices to them.
That's Act 14:13?
Yeah.
Okay.
The NIV, the New International Version.
Oh.
I don't know.
They totally changed that.
Should I look it up somewhere else?
Yeah.
Well.
Okay, we'll
stand
come
by.
back. Yeah. And then the last one is Romans 8:19.
Romans 8:19?
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm reading from the King James Version. For the earnest expectation of the creature waiteth for the manifestation of the sons of God.
Well, what's that from? From what?
Romans 8:19, for the earnest expectation of the creature waiteth for the manifestation of the sons of God.
Oh, okay.
Creation.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, it had it written differently here.
Oh, it wrote it differently there?
Yeah, I'm just reading what
Oh,
was...
let me read what you have, Raymond. Act 15. Because you're right, different Bibles. These Bibles have been changed so much, and no wonder everybody's so confused.
What, you want me to read Acts 15?
14, no. Romans 8:19.
Okay. It says here, for the earnest expectation of the creation eagerly await for the revealing of the sons of God.
Nice. James, do you have that Catholic Bible?
Let me look it up. Let me see if I have it.
If you do, I want you to read. You had Acts, right?
Yeah, I have Acts
Okay.
14:13 and the
Read.
James.
Okay. Let's hear what that say.
It's not too different.
Yeah, it talks about Zeus. You may have written it down wrong, maybe? Anyway.
This one says, then the priest of Jupiter, which was before their city, brought oxen and garlands unto the gates and would have done sacrifice with the people.
That's Acts 14:13?
Yeah.
Oh, amazing.
Am I on?
Okay.
Is that like so off
So
the
what?
mark?
No, no.
Oh. And what did yours say, James? James had that Catholic Bible, right?
Yeah. Acts 14:13 in the Catholic Bible. When the apostles the priests of Zeus outside the gate, proposing that all the people should offer sacrifices with them, brought garlanded oxen to the gates.
Okay.
Maybe it was
what?
that what you were looking for?
No. But it's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, it's fine. So I want to read this to you. So I read that last night in the Word, kind of going over it, because I've been wondering. I'm doing a lot of counseling, and I noticed that a lot of people are waking up first. They're going and forgiving, and they're starting to see things clear. All of a sudden, like, I'm free, I can see now, I can forgive. But yet, the ego still exists, and they still do things that they wish they didn't do or couldn't do or wouldn't do, right? But yet, they know that something changed. They woke up. And so I've been wondering, like, and then you hear all the people who have intellectually woke up, they're still immersed with their devil nature, thinking that it's them, and not believing that you could wake up first, that your heart can change. And then you start to overcome the ego nature. And I wonder, why is that? Why do they think that? Because I know for me, God woke me up first. I didn't even know I was asleep, right? And He caused me to see that I needed to forgive. My troubles were coming from unforgiveness. Because I used to go to different churches, I prayed, I gave offering, I spoke in tongues, I worked on different committees, I did everything the preachers say do, but nothing was working. And it wasn't until I asked Him to let me see myself, He allowed me to see, not the vices or anything, but He allowed me to see I needed to forgive. that my heart was evil because my heart was judging. I had anger toward my parents. So I went and forgave. And from that point forward, I've been able to see. And so then other things he started to change other things because he started to fight the devil for me, which I didn't know was going to happen. And I want to say to you that no matter what anyone say, once you forgive, when you truly see that you're wrong for hating, you will wake up, and then he'll start to fight the battle for you, right? And those words are telling us that. His disciples said to him, when will the dead be at rest? When will the dead be at rest? When will the new world come? When will the new world come? When will the dead be at rest? And he answered them, and the new world, I've been thinking all along, it meant when I go to heaven or something else is when the new world is coming, right? I didn't realize the new world was already here inside of me. I didn't know that. But he answered them, what you are waiting for has already come, but you do not see it. What you're waiting for has already come, but you do not see it. Meaning that there are Christians literally waiting for Christ to come down in the cloud and take them up, and they're going to be out in the cotton field. Some of them are going to be at home washing dishes, and Christ going to come down in the cloud. But what they don't know is that he has already done all that. He's already returned. But he returned to the new world that is in us. It's in us. And we got to live there. We got to see that. And the reason you don't see it is because you're living in the darkness of your imagination. You still believe the lie that comes from the devil, right? And so when Christ died, he was risen first. Then he died. He was risen by being able to see from within. God allowed him to see so that he could deal with the darkness. And sin is the rising, and the death is the ego dying. So on the cross, the ego died. And the reason that's so interesting to me because the people who are waking up, they still fighting with the ego. They cry about the ego. They say the ego make me, I'm just in pain. I can't help it. But what they don't know is that that's the death that Christ is talking about. It's the death of the ego. Playing God, all your little vices would disappear. It's dying away because that's the nature of the devil. But you have already risen when you forgave. Truly saw, not intellectual forgiveness is not forgiveness. It's not forgiveness. Because Satan is so busy, you can easily learn about forgiveness and go and tell Mom I'm sorry and not forgive. You got to see that you're wrong for resenting, for playing God. And then you will rise, and when you rise, the light of God will destroy the ego nature, the abnormal nature, which is of the devil, which is not for you. I mean, of you. That's why I say don't worry about being an alcoholic and all that. You know, try not to drink and get drunk, but if you do, don't judge yourself for it, because that's just the ego nature of the devil that you've been living in, thinking that it was you, and it will die. But you got to rise first by forgiving, and then you will die. But we've been taught all wrong, so we've been trying to make something happen that we've been taught. We've been told that, well, he died first. And we never really understood what it meant to die. And then he rose, but he rose first. And God gave him the power for the ego to die, to destroy the ego. And the same pain that you're having when you wake up, once you forgive, his pain was greater than that because he took it all on, really took it on, right? Nobody had taken on any. But because he took it on for us, it's not as painful as we think that it is. If you knew for sure that it wasn't you that was dying, you would die just like that. But you still, because it's so painful in here, the thoughts are so overwhelming at times, you still believe that is you, but it's not you. You must rise first, and then you shall die. and you'll live forever. When you forgive, you have risen. But risen is not what? Going up to heaven. You're living it right here on earth. The kingdom has already come. The Christ has already come. He already dwells in us. And don't make yourself see this just because I said it, but want to see it. Welcome the truth to come and show you. Let it come and show you. It'll blow your mind. And you'll be free. You will get so far away from thinking that it doesn't even exist and the world can't touch you. If you want real power, power is in forgiveness, not in anger. Anger is not a virtue, and people are treating anger today as though it's a virtue. I need the anger to defend myself, they say. I need anger for this or that. You can't live. All human beings have it, they say. They need, but you don't. That is the nature of the devil, and that must die, but that's not going to die until you have the Spirit of the Father to kill it. The devil is no competition for God. God doesn't even worry about the devil. He doesn't argue with him. He doesn't fight with him. If you let him, he'll just wipe him out because he's a weak beta guy, spirit. He roams as though he has advice. I mean, he has strength, but he really don't. And he made you believe that he has it. That's why you cry over your little pain and thoughts, because you think it's real. You think it's a power, but it's a lie. So go and forgive. I don't care what anyone says. You forgive. Don't ask anyone for forgiveness. You apologize for playing God. Be still and know and watch those thoughts. Have that quiet time so you can see those things. And I'm telling you as a witness, it will happen. But you got to rise first by forgiving, meaning that the light has to come on so that you can see. Isn't that amazing? It's already here. He said, the disciples said, when you get time, read those scriptures over again in your quiet time, all right? And his disciples said to him, when will the dead be at rest? When will the new world come? He answered them, what you are waiting for has already come, but you do not see it. It's already come, but you don't see it. And you notice what it was like when you first woke up spiritually, not intellectually. There was like a freedom there, right? You knew there was a freedom, but then you tripped out over the death of the ego because you didn't realize that that's what was going on. So relax and let the ego die. God is already with us. The kingdom of heaven is already at hand. It's already in us, the new world. You don't need to wait for the new world. There was a guy at the gate, and he couldn't walk. Remember that story? And when Christ saw him, Christ noticed that he had amazing faith. He believed that, the man believed that if he can only see Christ, he could walk, right? And so Christ went over to him, and he asked the man, what do you want? And the man said, I want to walk. I haven't been able to walk in years. And he just said, get up and walk. Because the man could already see Christ, but he was identified with the non-walking thing. He didn't know he could have just gotten up and walked then, because he identified with the ego that told him that he could not walk. But because he believed already, he could have walked. And that's how it is with the ego. Because you've awakened now, you can let the ego just die and just live your life. Any questions about that in a disagreement, not understanding, doesn't make sense. Did that make sense to anyone? It made sense? What kind of sense did it make to you, the young lady in the back?
I'm sorry, I have asthma.
Oh, that's fine.
That when he died for our sins, that's when his ego died.
Yes. And when you were able to see and knew and went and forgave, that's when you rose. and now the ego is dying. You're
Yes.
already risen with the Christ. But the devil makes you think that you're not. And other people who are blind will make you think that too. Because all they've done is learn what somebody taught them. They're not able to see for themselves what's really going on. So they're still struggling through life, believing that they're the nature of the devil, and they're not. How's your life going right now?
Chaos.
Chaos? And can you give me an example without getting too personal?
Legal issues.
Oh, I see. Okay. We'll relax through that too. Don't overreact to it. All right? Whatever it might be, do not overreact to it.
Okay.
Okay. If Christ had not risen first, he would not have been able to deal with the death. It was the strength of God, the Father, that caused him to go through the death. Yes.
So I learned this week, talking about hating your brother. This is Deuteronomy 23, and God tells the Jews not to hate the Egyptians. The Egyptians threw the babies, their firstborn, they killed their firstborn and threw the babies to the Nile River. With all that, they were enslaved. God still tells the tells the Jews, don't hate them. He says, don't hate them for your brother. He says, you shall, though that you loathe the Egyptian, for he is your brother, you shall not cast hatred on the Egyptian, because you were a stranger in the land. And so, just like the blacks hate, they should not hate. People should not hate, because, even God tells specifically, do not hate for your brother.
And the primary reason that we cannot hate and judge, because we are truly judging ourselves. We're judging sons and daughters of God. Because all this mess that you're into, this false identity, is not your identity. It's not you. And so above that, you are judging the person that God created, the creation of God. But you think you're judging that person because you don't see what's going on with you, and in that way you can't see what's driving that person. You don't know that that person's being driven by evil. You think it's them because you didn't see what was driving you. But that's not the person. It's not you, and it's not them. In the same manner that something will make you do what you didn't want to do, likewise, it's happening to every human being until they overcome. And that's why you can't judge. You are truly judging the image of God. And that's why what you're doing to others is happening to you. You can't judge. You must forgive. Love your enemy. They can't help it. Yes, ma'am.
I was just going to say that what I like about your questions is that it really is causing me to think a lot more spiritually.
Yes.
Because as Troy was explaining his thoughts on this, it was right. It resonated with me the way he explained it. I was thinking so literal, like dying physically, rising. And I think that for me, what I seek is for my understanding to be opened up more. And I assume, I'm asking you, silent prayer is the path toward that.
Yes.
I would think.
Because what it does, it causes you to slow down, and so that the truth can catch up with you. It's like we should be thinking spiritually and not physically. Christ was a spirit. The physical things will be taken care of. As Doug said, all his little needs are met. He got the money, he got the place to live, he got the job, all his needs are met. He told you, don't worry about those things. They're going to be met anyway. But it's the spirit that we need to be thinking of. We need to think spiritually and not physically. And most people don't do that. They can't see spiritually. That's why they always, when you ask questions, and I notice that every time I ask questions, most of the responders, not all, but most, they respond about the physical and not the spirit because they can't see. And it doesn't mean they won't. Stay with it, stay with it, stay with it, and you will be able to see, because when you stay with it, you're saying, I want to know. I want to understand. And understanding will come. It really will come. It's like what this young man was saying. It's not, he mentioned earlier, like it's not physical. We don't think. You got to start thinking spiritually. Because we are a spirit created in the image of God. We're not, and we just live in a physical body. Like we in this building now, we're not the building. When you die, when you leave here, this building gonna stay here till it fall apart, or somebody tear it down. And when you drop your body, the body will be destroyed, go back to the dust, but you still live spiritually. So think spiritually and not. And you can't make yourself think spiritually, because if you try to make yourself think spiritually, then you're of the devil. It's the devil giving you this, trying to make you think you're thinking spiritually. Because in thinking spiritually, there is no thinking. You cannot think spiritually. You're only thinking intellectually, which is physical. Isn't that amazing? And I say that because some people go out and they'll try to make themselves think spiritually, and then Satan will tell them, oh, you're thinking spiritually now. And they'll believe it because they don't know for sure that all thoughts are all lies all the time about anything. And you're already free, you just can't see that you're free. That's when I said, let the devil, don't argue with the devil, ever, 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 in your mind or outside of you, inside of others. Never argue with the devil. And see what you feel about it. If you're feeling something about it, that means that's something you need to overcome. It's not that person's fault that you're feeling something about it, because if it wasn't in you, you wouldn't be feeling anything about it. Nothing at all. In God, there is no feeling. Well, I ain't gonna tell y'all this, but there is no feeling. Y'all got enough to deal with right now. Yes, sir, Sharon.
So when you go and forgive your parents, for example, and you apologize for resenting them and judging them, I just want to know if I'm thinking about this in the right way, because if you're not necessarily apologizing to them, you're just declaring that you're recognizing that you're wrong.
You're confessing your sin.
Because you're confessing your sin in a public way. Because if you were apologizing to them, it would be like looking for forgiveness from them, which you're not doing. And
that's deep.
I guess that was a small miscommunication that happened when I went and forgave. And so the way I'm starting to think about it now is that it's more of a declaration, before them, before God, that you are recognizing that you're wrong, and not necessarily I apologize to you. It's just I apologize.
Yeah, to add to that, I can honestly tell you that I didn't know that I resented. I knew I had anger, but I didn't know about all the resentment and blah, blah, blah stuff. I was like everybody else. I just kind of thought it was true. That's the way it was. But then when I ask God to let me, when I ask God to let me see myself, because nothing was working. Going to church didn't work. Praying out loud didn't work. Praying in tongues didn't work. Nothing was working. I still had the conflict, but at the time I still didn't know I couldn't see. I just knew I still wasn't free. And then at that time I was dealing with a lot of women. I was a slut maker. But I couldn't deal with them. They got mad, I had to go. or I would appease them in some kind of way. Go and buy something, or go salsa dancing, or doing something, And
Fear?
I'm sorry?
Because of the fear?
Because I couldn't deal with her if she got mad, and so I was trying to make her comfortable so I could be comfortable with her. And it was because of the fear. Absolutely because of the fear. And so I was going to church doing all that stuff. And I finally asked God, you know what, this ain't working. I still feel this way on the inside. And at the time, I didn't think of my life as being, what's the biblical question?
Does your life make sense?
My life did not make sense because I had read all my life and I heard that if you believe in God, you're supposed to have peace. I had no peace. I heard that if you believe in God, you could be free on earth. I had no freedom. I heard that if you believe in God, you will have no fear. I had fear. And so my life was not making sense. So if you're supposed to have all this with God, why do I still have all this and I still say I believe in God? You know what I'm saying? And so my life wasn't making sense to me. It didn't make sense. Because you can't believe in God and have all this hell you got, right? And it didn't make sense. I didn't hear anyone else that their life wasn't making sense, but I knew they were having as much conflict as I was having. But I just thought, whatever. But it wasn't until I asked God, let me see what's going on. Let me know myself. Because I heard you should know yourself. But I didn't know myself. And that's when he allowed me to see. And it wasn't right at the moment he allowed me to see it. A day or so went by, I guess, a week. And I was up getting dressed and I saw the darkness. And he allowed me to see that was the anger. I had hatred in my heart. And when I saw that, I wept because I didn't know it. And it was a darkness it was like one of those darkness that come in your room at night through the door, flying through the air, and trying to hold you down. It was a wicked darkness like that. And then he caused me to realize I needed to forgive. And when I went and forgave my mother at 38, it was the hardest thing I ever had to do. It would have been easy for me to go over to Saddam Hussein home and get him. And then it was my mama. And so I went, and when I forgave her, he took away the fear. That's the first thing he took away was the fear when I faced the fear. I didn't know then that was going to happen. But when I faced the fear and I forgave, I apologized for resenting her. I'm like, I've been resenting you all my life. I realize now I'm wrong. I can see that I'm wrong, that you couldn't help yourself. And everything changed. The fear was taken away, and 34 years have gone by. I've been through all kind of debates and all kind of stuff. But the one thing I noticed, I forgot that I used to have fear because I had no fear. He take the fear away. And you are saying, you're not going to accuse her of anything, call her names. You don't need her to admit to anything because you're confessing your sin. He said, go and confess your sin one to another, right? And so you go to your mother and say, I'm sorry for resenting you. I was wrong for resenting you. Not that she was right for what she did, she couldn't help it. But when you go and forgive, that's when the fear was taken away. And that made a little sense in my life then. But then I didn't know that he was going to work on the ego. I thought I had to do something about that too. And it wasn't until I just stayed with it, not judging myself at all, that he started to erase the ego nature too. And all the stuff just started to fall away. And I'm not saying it's all gone, all the nature of the ego gone, but I can tell you this, I'm so free of it until it's amazing. That's why I'm telling you what I'm telling you now, because I'm telling you what happened. You must forgive, you must rise from he said the heart is wicked. The heart is of darkness. The heart is evil of mankind, is evil. And before you can enter into the kingdom that's already there inside of us, you got to forgive. I don't care what has happened. They couldn't help it, just like you could not help yourself. But you must truly forgive, not intellectually, spiritually. And you are confessing your sin. I'm wrong for hating you. I'm sorry. That makes sense? Absolutely. And that's what happened with your parents when you went to them?
Yeah. Yeah, and the clear-mindedness, the sense that life is making to me now, it comes to me in the moment. That's the only way it comes to me. Like in each individual. When I look at the past, it doesn't make any sense at all. And I look obviously the future doesn't make any sense because it doesn't exist.
That's right.
But yeah, just, it comes to me as I go, not necessarily something that I can foresee, or certainly not something that I can look back on.
Yeah.
Because I look back at what, stuff I've done in the past and different versions of myself, and it doesn't make any, I can't even
It's
make
crazy.
make any sense of it at all.
It's amazing how our life don't make sense, but we think it does make sense. We've been taught so wrong. That's why God said, let no man teach you. We've been taught so wrong about everything. But the Holy Spirit will teach us all things. And the kingdom of heaven is already here. It's already done. There's nothing you need to be waiting for. You don't need to be looking up in the cloud to see Jesus coming down and on 2 horses and a mule. You don't need any of that. It's done. He said it's done. But you just don't see it. It's amazing. Okay, I got to wind down now, so I need y'all to be short. Because James, I need to end at what time?
11:45. 12 minutes.
Okay, a quarter to. We got 12 minutes. Okay, let me see the hands. Okay, let's start here. Let's start here, there. Did I see the hands over here? Okay, here, there. Make it short. Okay.
This is just real quick. I thought it fit in with what we're talking about today. Proverbs 3, verses 5 and 6. Trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not until thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths.
And what does that mean to you?
It means that don't even try to figure things out. Don't try to make sense of anything. Just trust him. Oh, I'm sorry.
You got the mic over here. Trust in the mic?
To me, it means don't try to figure things out for yourself. Don't try to make sense of things. Because we do live our lives being taught wrong, and we try to figure out intellectually how this works. And then when we start to wake up, Satan is going to try to carry that over into the spiritual things, and you're trying to figure it out spiritually. But just trust in God, and he will direct you. He will show you the way without you trying to figure it out on your own.
Right
Lean
on.
not upon your own understanding.
And I want to just say this about the word trust. Don't hold on to the word trust, because Satan will use the word trust against you. He'll make you think you're trusting. Oh, you're trusting. Look at you. Don't listen to that either. All right? You want to know the Father. And the reason I'm telling you about the trust thing, because the intellect will grab hold of every little thing and pretend to be God. So absolutely. Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to say, now that I'm out of the fallen state, I'm so happy that my life doesn't make sense, because I feel more surrendered and just open to the possibilities, knowing that I'm just in the moment, in the present, and allowing God to do what he's doing.
Right on.
Just wanted to say.
It didn't make sense to me when I was going to church that I was confessing God, Christ as Lord and Savior, but I would still have this fear. I'm like, something ain't right here. Because even as a little kid, I remember them saying that whatever you ask God for, you believe it, you can get it. And I just believed that without thinking about it. But when I became an adult, that kind of disappeared, and this other mess came upon me. And I knew, okay, if I believe in God, why am I so afraid? Why am I so insecure? Why do I have this or that? It didn't make sense. The two didn't go together. Now I understand why. Absolutely. Yes, sir.
I just want to take a quick second to say thanks, because whenever I started coming here, you sit up there, and I think at the beginning, I really wanted to understand, and I wanted, for myself, I wanted you to plant your flag and declare what it was and what needed to be done, and I just really appreciate your ability to hold the mirror up and reflect back on people like myself. When I sat over there, I think the third time I came here, you were like, do you want to be free, or do you want to live in jail or in prison or something? And you just kept drilling me with that question, and I just appreciate the fact that you're so committed to asking the question as opposed to going up there and trying to teach everyone. You really did take a moment whether you know it to force me to look at myself, which started me down that path. And I just want to say, I
Nice.
appreciate that you do that instead of going up there like every other church I've been to saying, here's what I think and what you got to do, and if you don't, you're a sinner, but put some money in the basket and you'll be all right till next week. I appreciate that you didn't do that. I appreciate
Yeah.
that you forced me to look at myself.
Absolutely. You're welcome, man. You got to see for yourself that's the only way you're going to be free. Because you don't know if I'm telling the truth or not until you can see it for yourself what is true. Yes, sir.
So that in Deuteronomy, it talked about how God himself told the Jews not to hate the Egyptians, and that's my first time really hearing and seeing that, and it kind of makes sense, you know, when I hear stories or watch movies about, you know, Moses, you know, because none of them made it into the promised land. They all died in the wilderness, and it had to be because of their hearts weren't pure. They had anger and hatred in their hearts, so they couldn't even trust God. They couldn't even trust God for food. And so it just makes sense. It makes sense to me now.
Nice. Did you have your hand too? Oh, yeah. Okay, these two and then I got to end. Okay. You first, go ahead.
Sure. Yeah.
You're going to miss your turn.
No, it's okay.
Why you gave you the mic, Mom? Take it back.
Well, what I wanted to say was a little bit longer, but you're running.
Come on, Mama, take it. I'll cut you off if you go too long.
All right.
Go ahead.
So again, just like the intellectual me thinks of stories when we talk about life and death and rebirth, just a quick story. I'm sure everybody here knows of Socrates from ancient Greece. And ancient Greeks believed in all those gods like Zeus and everything like that,
yeah.
the different gods. And he always, as a kid in his young life, he always
Are you
wondered.
nervous?
No.
Why are you shaking?
Because I had 3 cups of coffee.
Oh, that'll do it.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Make a long story short, his whole life he just wondered why everybody accepted the gods, and he wanted to question them himself. And at one point he questioned so much the whole society was like wondering whether the gods were real or not. And so the authorities and the high priest said, we need to do something about this guy and we need to, you know, take him out.
Yeah.
And basically his friend said, Socrates, stop talking. I like you as a person. I want you alive. They're going to kill you. And he said, no, I'm going to continue to keep talking about it. And I think right then and there was his ego death, because a few years later, they had a vote. There was like 500 people, and 280 said to execute him, and 220 said not to. And they picked sides. And again, it just goes back to the death and rebirth. He had to basically know that he was going to die, questioning the beliefs, because again, with the priests, he always wondered. He saw people that were going to these, you know, Zeus and Apollo and all these people, but they still had problems in their life. They were still drunkards, and they still had anger in their heart. So he's, for me, is a perfect example of like kind of what we're talking about.
Right on. Just know, as you wake up, the devil's going to come after you. He doesn't want you to depart from your body, so he's going to scream and accuse you and condemn you and all that. And then he's going to use other devils outside of you. He will be using people outside of you to destroy you too, because he doesn't want to lose your soul. But if you don't judge your family members or anyone, and if you take it personally, just know that it's not their fault that you're taking it that way. You just identify with the nature of the devil. And be glad for it so you can go through it and overcome it. All right? It is going to get rough. But it won't be rough with you, because now you're risen in the light. The light will fight your battle. Eternal life is right here, right now. Eternal life does not die. Eternal life never leaves you. Eternal life is not over there, or over there, or over there. It's not in what you have or don't have. Eternal life is in you. It's here. It's right now. It's always here. It's always right now. It doesn't die. And we want eternal life, and he made it. We have it. We already have it. We just don't know that we have it. You have eternal life. You don't have to die. Yes, sir. Except for the ego there.
I could be wrong about this, but the greatest thing I learned about the church, I found out when I went to church, is that we have, the greatest freedom we have is the freedom to fail, because In order to succeed in life, we have to learn what it takes to fail.
There's no such thing as failure or success. Only for people who are divided. If you're divided, then there's failure and success. But if you're whole, there's no such thing. Up and down are only for divided people. If I do this, this will happen. If this, it's only for divided people. One person, a whole person is not divided. No such thing as failure or success.
So all there is the moment.
That's all it is. And that stuff is made up by divided people. You either succeed or you fail. You either have it or you don't. You have this or you don't, right? Up and down, feeling good and feeling bad. That's not eternal life. That's not in eternal life at all. That is in a person that is divided. It's not real.
I understand. Thank you.
Okay. So the new biblical question is, I may change it. I might not, but we'll see. Do you live in a cage? Do you live in a cage? So I'm going to ask the two new people, since they're first time here, we close it out. Do you live in a cage?
No.
And why do you say no?
Because I don't listen to my thoughts no more. So they can't block me no more like they used to.
Okay. Do you live in a cage? Sean, come back from the phone, babe. Come over here. Sean on his phone, holding the mic. Do you live in a cage?
That would imply that I'm sort of divided to have an answer either or, right? My mind's always in flux, so I would say there's times I might, there's times I wouldn't. I just don't. Today I could say, because I just feel a little more liberated or free, that no, my life doesn't, I don't feel like I live in a cage.
Okay.
That answer could change though.
It can change?
Yeah.
You can live in a cage?
Huh?
That means you might move into a cage.
Perhaps anything's possible.
Okay. I'm going to have to change the biblical question because she's right. The cage is the thoughts. Anyone that lives in their thoughts, anyone that lives in their imagination, anyone that believes their thoughts about anything is living in a cage. That's why you act like an animal. You see animals in cages, since they can't get out, they're always growling and yelling at somebody trying to get them. Anyone that lives in their thoughts are living in a cage, and you're acting like an animal. So you're right.
It's all fulfilling.
It is all fulfilling. Amazing. Well, anyway, I'm out of time now. Do the silent prayer. Do your little hooping and hollering, praying, crying, and acting out. And you and the devil have fun. And then when you're done with that, be still and know God. Let go. The truth is trying to catch up with you. When you have the fear and all that, just know the truth is trying to catch me. That's why I'm afraid. The truth is trying to catch me. I'm worried about what someone thinks. The truth is trying to catch me. I'm up and down. I'm a failure. I'm a loser. The truth is trying. Think of it that way. The truth is always trying to catch you, and the lie, hate the truth, is afraid of it, so it's on the run. Stop and let the truth catch up with you and change you. And that's what the silent prayer would do. For those who are sincere, it will slow you down, it will stop you, so the truth can catch up and cause you to see and overcome. All right? Become your own man, become your own woman, do the silent prayer, and watch. Nothing else is required. Just watch. All right? So, no any announcement? No other announcement. Okay. So I appreciate it. We'll do the super chats tomorrow. And thank you for your tithe and offering. And I hope that something was said today that will help you get to know you. Keep your eyes on you. Let the world go nuts. Let them act any kind of way they want. Kill the babies. Let them protest on the track at the train. Let them, whatever they're doing. But you stay an individual, all right? And you'll be fine. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you all for coming. That was amazing. Amazing. Okay.